Born Savage, Blood Rose Nights, Book 2. Written by Keary Taylor. Narrated by Raven Wildwood. Chapter 8. I can't stop looking at him. The next night at the hospital, Sebastian and I are on duty together. It's the same as most nights. I don't think he would normally work in the emergency room this much, and I don't know that he would normally work this many nights, but he is in charge of overseeing my last few months of residency, after all. But tonight feels different. Something tingles along my skin, and I'll look over my shoulder to find his eyes lingering on me. I'll see his gaze go from my toes all the way up to my eyes. I'll catch him looking distracted. And when our eyes meet, an unsure smile pulls on his lips. I can't stop staring either. I keep watching him work. I love the confidence he has in his work. I love the way he can use a smooth comment to ease the anxiety of a patient. I love watching those skilled hands as he does a row of stitches or feels for broken bones. I'm mesmerized by the roses tattooed on the backs of both hands. I'm all too aware of where he is every single moment of the night. Things are different. I knew things would change if I were to go out with Sebastian, and they have. After last night, I don't know what it means for the future, but now I'm not sure I can walk away from what I felt last night. I feel like finally, there is a soul in this universe that is as twisted and messed up and perfectly flawed as my own. And I am desperate for it. When there is a lull in the night, I find myself in the break room, searching the fridge for a bag of blood, and everything in me perks up when I feel the presence behind me. Sebastian walks up to the counter just to my left and grabs a power bar from the cupboard. I can't stop thinking about last night, he says in a low voice without looking at me. Glad to hear I'm not the only crazy one, I confess. But it feels like a relief, and finally, I'm not embarrassed to admit how I feel. Can I come over in the morning? He asks, and it thrills me how desperate he sounds. Absolutely, I say, and both of us turn as someone rushes into the room. Dr. Vincent, you need to see this, Diana says, her eyes slightly too wide. With a confused, ready-for-action glance between us, Sebastian and I both rush out of the room, following after Diana. I know that something is really, really wrong when I hear the panicked voices of everyone in the emergency room. I know it's wrong when I smell the scent of rotting flesh. Holy shit, Sebastian breathes as we break around the corner and we take in the nightmare in front of us. In one of the private rooms, a woman looks over her shoulder back at us. Only I can see through her ribcage. I see slumping flesh. I see rotten organs. Her hair is barely clinging to her skull. The skin around her fingernails is retreated, making them look monstrous and terrifying. Dorothy? Sebastian whispers. His eyes are wide, totally terrified and confused. He takes a step back, his gaze dropping up and down the total nightmare in front of us. She looks like a zombie, literally like she wandered off of the scene of a movie set. Only this is way too convincing to be fake. Her skin is gray and lifeless. Her eyes look too dull, too dead. But as the seconds pass, I watch as her skin fills in. It seems to grow, to cover her ribcage. Slowly, it knits together. Second by second, just a little bit of pink rises in her color. Dr. Vincent? The woman says, her tone shaking and wobbly. Sebastian shakes his head. Juliet, call Elena. Call Roman. Call Sigrid. Why? I ask stupidly, even as I pull my phone from my pocket. Because I declared Dorothy dead, and we buried her over a year ago, he says. My stomach evaporates. My organs twist in fear. Cold sweat breaks out on my skin. Second by second, Dorothy looks a little more human. Her hair tightens to her scalp. Her stiff and dead-looking hands gain just a bit of movement. Is Chicago cursed? Does no one stay dead in this city? Am I not the only one who can't really die here? I swallow once, fighting the rising bile in my stomach, and turn away, pressing my phone to my ear. Juliet, we need a girls' night, Elena answers after just 2 rings. You need to get down to the hospital, I say, without responding to her statement. Like, now. You'll understand when you get here. I hang up and next dial Sigrid. I give her a similar explanation, and she says she'll be here in 20 minutes. Next, I dial Roman. Something bad and weird is happening at the hospital, I say. You need to get here, right now. I'm 5 minutes away, he says, without looking for answers. He hangs up on me. I look back up and have to blink twice. Dorothy nearly looks human. Her skin is a warm pink color. Her eyes are a natural brown hue. The only evidence that anything is wrong is that the area covering her ribcage is still meshing back together and slightly sagging. Dr. Vincent, I don't understand what's happening, she says in a shaking voice. He just shakes his head. How did you get here? Where? Her lower lip quivers as she looks around. She seems so out of sorts, so lost. Never mind, Sebastian says, shaking his head. Wait until the others get here. Juliet, can you help me with a physical exam? Ew, no. I do not want to touch this zombie woman, even if I've been watching her skin reattach and spark back to life. But doctors have to do disgusting stuff all the time. So I simply nod and pull on a pair of gloves. Dorothy accidentally overdosed, Sebastian says, as he too pulls on some gloves. Too many sleeping pills, too much alcohol. She was unconscious when she was brought in. We pumped her stomach, did everything we could, but it was too late. He indicates for her to lay back on the exam table and then presses a hand into her stomach. Does that hurt? He asks. A little, she says with a slight wince. Dr. Vincent, did I really overdose? Why did I wake up in the cemetery? Chills wash over my entire body as I feel her neck, searching for her pulse. It's there, though it's fast, and there's something slightly irregular about it, as if the beat isn't quite right. It's too erratic. Please wait until the others get here, Sebastian says, and there's just a tiny hint of panic in his tone. Pulse is odd, I say, next moving on to her wrists to feel for it there, which is hardly necessary. We can both hear her heart thundering. Temperature is 94.2, which is far, far too cold. But if she was just dead... Her stomach seems okay, Sebastian says. It was a disaster when she came in here last year. You can hear and see us okay? Dorothy nods as her eyes well, and then begin to leak. She holds a hand up to her mouth, covering it as she sucks in a sharp breath. What is happening? Who was that man? I can tell Sebastian is dying to pepper her with questions. I'm barely keeping my own questions at bay. I feel so blind right now, so out of the loop. But until the rest of the night council gets here, it's better to hold off so she doesn't have to repeat herself. Just 1 minute later, I hear Roman's voice out in the lobby, and one of the nurses directs him to this room. He jogs inside with his eyes wide, his stance ready to fight. How long until Elena and Mason get here? Sebastian barks, even more anxious now that another night council member is here. Any minute, I say, flashing a light in Dorothy's eyes. They dilate normally. And as I say the words, I hear their voices through the emergency doors. Back here, I call out. They jog into the room with wide eyes, and, thankfully, Sigrid is right behind them, along with all 3 of their bodyguards. What the hell is going on? Elena asks. You remember Dorothy McDonald? Sebastian asks, with a dark look in her direction. Holy shit! Elena yelps, and she takes a step back, her face turning stone white. The lie detector? She's supposed to be dead? Mason finishes the sentence. Suddenly, I feel Roman's eyes on me. Cautiously, I glance over at him. His eyes are narrowed in question, but I subtly shrug and shake my head. I don't know what the hell is going on. Whatever is happening to Dorothy, I don't see how it can have anything to do with me. Roman simply lets out a hard breath and turns his attention back to the woman on the exam table. Dorothy, Sigrid says in a shocked gape. She steps forward, around Sebastian to the other side of the table, and she takes Dorothy's hand. I cannot express my gratitude in seeing you again, but I do not understand how it is possible. Ah, Dorothy is a gifted, therefore making her Sigrid's charge. Elena called her the lie detector. Good to know. I, she stutters, looking around at all the night council members that surround her. I don't understand. I remember being at my apartment, getting ready to go to bed, and the next thing I remember is gasping for air. I woke up and there was this man. He was holding on to my ankle and his eyes. She shakes her head, the look in her own eyes haunted and terrifying. What about his eyes? Roman probes. She looks at the head of city security. They were pitch black. No whites, no color to them. And you said you woke up in the cemetery? Sebastian asks, as he continues his examination. Dorothy nods. It was just me and him, and then he just smiled, which was terrifying, and then he took off. I didn't feel right, so I got on the L and I came here. Shit. She looked absolutely terrifying when she walked into the ER here. What must she have looked like when she got on the L? Did anyone see you on the train? Roman asks. His tone is grave, dead serious. She blinks 3 times when she looks at him, opening and closing her mouth twice. I don't think so, but I wasn't really paying attention. Put out the word to your crew if anyone says anything about a zombie sighting, Sebastian says, hesitating on the word. Excuse me? Mason asks, his brows narrowing. She didn't look like this when she first came in. I pick up. No offense, Dorothy, but she looked like she'd just come out of the ground. She wasn't exactly in solid pieces. She looks fine now, Sigrid says, as she looks the woman up and down. It is as if she is somehow reversed from rotting corpse to human once more. That's not possible, Elena barks, her tone slightly annoyed. Neither is being immortal, or being able to track someone with their blood, or being a lie detector. Sebastian interjects, with a dark look cast in Elena's direction. I've never seen someone like this man, Dorothy says. She's trembling. I can only imagine what it must have been like, waking up in a cemetery as a half-rotten corpse. His eyes, he was saying these words, and there was this feeling when he was touching me. I've never met a gifted like that, not anywhere in this city. The blood in my veins feels cold. There's this thrumming in my ears. I don't understand. There is still so much about this world that I do not understand. But I can sense that something isn't right here. It isn't normal. Even among this level of abnormality I've come to accept, this isn't normal. It's simple, isn't it? Mason says. My eyes rise to his. His handsome face is ashen. Suddenly, he looks years older. She was dead. A gifted brought her back from the dead, reformed her physical body, and now she's walking around looking like any other person. I think you'd better explain, his twin sister says, fixing him with heavy eyes, because nothing about this seems simple to me. Mason looks over at her. He hesitates a moment. He draws in a breath, but it's shallow, shaky. Elena, I think we have a necromancer in town. No, Roman says, shaking his head. This isn't funny, Mason. We need to figure this out. I'm not trying to be funny, Mason says, shooting Roman a dark look that could nearly kill. It adds up. The woman was dead, in the ground for a year, and now she's sitting here, having a conversation with us. Once more, Roman's eyes dart over to mine. I was dead once too, gray and lifeless in the back of his SUV, until I woke up with a gasp and both our lives shifted. Is it possible? Elena asks, her eyes shooting to Sigrid. My distant aunt shakes her head and shrugs. I have never heard of such a thing, but most human lore is based in some truth. Gifts manifest in many different ways. so I cannot with certainty rule out the possibility."
"Do you remember any of the words this man said?"
Sebastian asks. Dorothy's eyes haven't decreased in terror or size. She shakes her head. "I was so out of it, so freaked out. I couldn't tell you." "Did you get a good look at the man, though?" I ask. "Could you describe him?" "I'll do my best," Dorothy says.
"I can have the sketch renderer with the CPD come in,"
Roman says, as he pulls his phone out.
"If we can get a good image, maybe we can identify him."
Elena nods her head. "What we also need to know is why," she says. "Why Dorothy?" "She is a gifted," Sigrid says, squeezing the woman's hand. "But why bring her back from the dead and then let her go?" Elena asks. "What would be the point?"
"Maybe simply to see if he can."
Mason poses the question.
"He must have known it was possible, considering he took the time to dig her out. But maybe it was simply practice."
The thought sends a wave of chills down my arms. Just like practicing yoga. You know you can make a few bends, but you have to practice before you perfect the handstand.
"Dorothy, my favorite vegetable is carrots, and my favorite flavor of ice cream is cherry,"
Sebastian says, possibly the most random statement he could make in this moment. "Both of those are lies," the woman says, fixing him with a hard stare. Sebastian looks back at the rest of us.
"She still has her gift, so he didn't dig her up to take anything."
Elena shakes her head. "We need this guy identified. Until we know who he is, we don't stand a chance of catching him and asking him some questions. Any response from your contact, Roman?"
"She can be here in about an hour,"
Roman says.
"She's bringing her computer."
Mason nods.
"Good. When that's done, you need somewhere safe to stay, Dorothy. Roman, do you have a safe house she can crash at?" "Of course."
The rest of the night in the emergency room is slow, but I wish it wasn't. There is nothing to distract me from the anxiety clawing its way up my throat. We try not to hover. Someone will walk away for a bit, but always comes back. Then another comes and goes. But every single one of us ends up watching over Dorothy's shoulder as she works with Roman's contact. Slowly, they build a face using different parts. They find the right nose, eyes, ears, hairstyle. Piece by piece, she creates an image of the man everyone now wants to find and talk to. I expected this possible necromancer to be a terrifying-looking old man with long hair and bad teeth. But when Dorothy finally nods, certain they've captured the man's likeness as close as possible, that is not what I see. He's younger looking, 25 at most. I think maybe he's Asian, but could also be Polynesian. His lips are full, his nose a little large. Black brows furrow over intense eyes. His hair is black, cut short. "Can we scan this through the system?" Elena asks, as she looks from the renderer to Roman.
"Yes,"
Roman answers. He crosses his arms over his chest, his brows furrowed at the screen.
"I can upload it to facial recognition,"
Mason says.
"We can scan employment photos, membership cards, anything that would be stored in a database. We can search it."
"That doesn't sound particularly legal," Elena points out. "But desperate times."
"It's going to take some time, though,"
Mason says.
"Our IT department can help me, but it's going to be massive amounts of information to search through. It might take a couple of days." "Better get started,"
Sebastian points out. "I'll email you the image," the render artist says. Mason simply nods.
"You'll keep her somewhere safe?"
he asks Roman. Roman nods. Mason's eyes slide back to Dorothy, and he considers for a moment. And then he looks over at me. His eyes drop down the length of me, but it isn't in the same lustful way he once did. It's almost to see that I'm doing okay.
"Come on,"
he finally says, looking back to his sister. Elena nods. She grabs my shoulder as she walks by, and I rest my hand over hers for just a moment. And then we watch the two of them walk out. "Let me know if you think of any changes that need to be made," the woman says as she closes up her laptop and stands. I've got to get going. I'm supposed to meet with a witness in an hour.
Thank you, Tanya,
Roman offers as she goes. Looking tired and a little frustrated, he extends a hand to Dorothy, pulling her to her feet.
Come on, we need to get you settled before the sun comes up. I have some other stuff I need to take care of.
Dorothy glances back at Sebastian, clearly nervous.
Roman will keep you safe,
Sebastian says with a nod.
We'll figure this out.
She still looks scared. Who could blame her? But she gives the tiniest of nods and then walks out after Roman, Sigrid right by her side. Sebastian walks to my side, watching after the last of the group as they go. Well, if dealing with a zombie and a necromancer isn't a mood killer, then I don't know what is, I say, in a deadpan voice. Sebastian laughs. Actually laughs. And I don't think I've heard him really laugh yet. It's a big thing that comes from his belly and fills the room with sound. And then he shakes his head and lets out a sigh. He reaches up, takes a lock of my hair between his fingers, and rolls it over his thumb.
I couldn't agree more,
he says, catching my eyes as he drops my hair.
How about I come over to your place this evening instead, and I'll make you my famous Black Forest cake?
Who says it's famous? I ask, as my eyes fall to his lips.
I do,
he says, and that wicked smile pulls on his lips, and he steps around me, returning to work. Chapter 9. A knock at the door pulls me away from cleaning up my apartment. I cross to it and stand straight in surprise when it's Echo at the door. Your supply, she says in a dry voice, barely containing an eye roll. Hooked over just one finger, she extends a red, insulated bag. Good timing. I thought I was going to have to go out and hunt some dirtbag down, I say, trying to lighten the dark cloud she's brought with her. She just stares at me blankly, looking bored. So, obviously I've done something to make you not like me, I say, dragging the words out awkwardly. Can I ask what it is? Echo just blinks slowly again, and then she takes a dramatic breath in and then out. I just think you need to open your eyes a little bit. Sebastian isn't just the do-good doctor he looks like. I'm pretty aware of that fact, I say, feeling my insides bristle. Sebastian said he thought Echo had feelings for him. It seems she's looking to chase me away. You should stay away from him, she says, her tone ever flat, ever bored. I don't think I will, I say in a condescending tone. She just lets out a small, slightly disgusted sound and turns away. How much do I owe you? I call out to her. Nothing, she calls out, sounding even more annoyed. And then she disappears into the elevator. Ugh, jealousy makes people really ugly sometimes. I shower, finish picking up the apartment, way overthink what to wear. I double and triple check my hair in the mirror, and my heart jumps all the way up into my throat when there is a knock on the door at 6 o'clock. I pull it open to Sebastian standing there with a grocery bag in one hand. He looks up at me from beneath those dark lashes, and once again, when his eyes meet mine, I feel like I'm a little rabbit and he's the big bad wolf. I have no instinct to run, however. Come on in, I say with a smile as I pull the door open wider. Sebastian's eyes fall down the length of me, and a very satisfied smile pulls on his mouth. I'm wearing a simple, very casual burgundy dress. It has a deep V neck and cap sleeves. It falls in soft folds to just a few inches above my knees. He walks to the kitchen and sets the bag down on the island. One by one, he pulls out the ingredients.
Did Echo drop off your supply?
He asks. She did, I say with a nod, as I cross back to the kitchen and lean against the bar with my hands pressed to the smooth countertop. For some reason, she wouldn't let me pay her, though. I see no good in telling him about the rest of what she said to me. Sebastian's eyes slide over to mine, and a smirk pulls on his lips.
You're you, Juliet. My entire crew knows that whatever you need, you get.
That sounds like a quick way to make them all hate me, I say with a smirk in my tone. Employees don't like when the boss plays favorites. He looks over.
I'm not even going to attempt to hide my favoritism, Juliet. Sorry.
My entire chest warms, and excited electricity shoots out to every extremity in my body. I try not to bite my lower lip, but I'm not sure I succeed.
Where is your mixing bowl?
Sebastian asks, moving on from that waited moment. I gather the things he needs and then retreat to the couch while he works. I look out at the darkened sky. This late into fall, there's just a hint of color high in the sky. For the most part, all I see is dark water and cloudy skies. Have you traveled much? I ask. I'm not totally sure where the question comes from, but I'm glad that I don't have to worry about a filter around Sebastian.
Some,
he says, as he looks up.
I've been to most places in the States. I went to France a few years back, and Tokyo, just to see what they were like. You?
I shake my head. I grew up in Kansas, and the second I turned 18, I got the hell out of there. I pretty much went straight to New York. And then I never had the money to leave. I took a day trip to New Jersey once.
That sounds exciting,
he says with a chuckle. Let me tell you, I say sarcastically. And I even took a jaunt over to Pittsburgh. And then Elena brought me to Vegas for that one day, St. Louis for a few hours, and now here. So I can honestly say I haven't been much of anywhere.
Would you like to travel?
Sebastian asks with a deeper look. He stirs his ingredients in the bowl. I tuck my legs up under me. I think so. Though, to be honest, the idea of trying to figure out all the details is kind of overwhelming. And I've only been on a plane twice. Well, I guess it was 4 times, but I was kind of dead for one of those and a totally confused newborn vampire for the other. Sebastian chuckles at that. He well knows the story of how Elena and Mason hauled my dead body to Las Vegas before I resurrected there. It's what started the whole mess I had to deal with in the first few months of my being in this city.
If you could travel anywhere, where would you want to go?
He asks. I have to think about it for a minute. If the whole world was on the table, where would I pick? Maybe Rome, I answer. Seems like there would be lots of cool old stuff to see there. Sebastian puts the pan in the oven and sets a timer. Wiping his hands on a kitchen towel, he turns and walks back to the couch with a smile.
I've always thought it would be nice to visit Rome.
I say, not daring to say any more, not with the uncertain way things are right now. Sebastian's eyes fall from my own down to my lips. They linger there for a moment. But the look on his face, I don't think it's just kissing me he's thinking about. There's something deeper there. But I don't get the chance to ask him about it, because I hear his phone ring and he pulls it from his pocket. Mason's name displays as a FaceTime call.
Mason,
Sebastian answers, holding the phone up. Suddenly, he and Elena display in one corner of the screen, Roman and Sigrid in the other corners. Where are you? Elena asks, as she leans forward and squints at the camera. I instantly feel myself blush when Sebastian tips the phone in my direction. I give an awkward wave.
Why are you at Juliet's apartment?
Mason asks, just a little too much edge in his voice.
I'm making her my famous Black Forest cake,
Sebastian says, without missing a beat. He doesn't look embarrassed, not one little bit. He keeps saying it's famous, but I don't know if I believe him, I say, trying to play it casual and relaxed. Elena's eyes shift over to me, and there is this look on her face. One that promises I will be receiving a call or a visit soon, and I better be prepared to give an explanation.
Can we get on with it, whatever this is about?
Roman growls. We've figured out the name of the man who brought Dorothy back, Elena says, moving on to the mobile night council meeting.
His name is Marcus Lontock.
Mason moves on.
He was a student at Northwestern. He just graduated in the spring.
Isn't that really close to Chicago? I ask, as my worry saturates my system.
It's only a 40-minute drive from here.
Sebastian fills in. He got a degree in biochemistry. Elena says.
Of course, Roman says in disgust. Why wouldn't a necromancer have a degree in biochemistry? He's not from here, though,
Mason interrupts.
He was in Maine before that. Graduated high school there, top of his class, but he's got a record for getting in trouble. Arson, breaking and entering, assault.
I hate to profile, Sigrid jumps in, but this is all lining up. I see Mason nod on the screen.
There's a couple-year gap. He didn't start at Northwestern until 4 years ago. I can't find any records of him after his high school graduation, until he started school 2 years after that.
Have you been able to track any of his family lines? Sigrid asks. Do we know of anyone gifted in his family tree? Mason shakes his head.
This is all I have so far. We will keep digging and see what we can find. Roman, could you reach out to the CPD and give them his picture? Could we put an APB on him, bring him in?
Sebastian asks.
On the grounds of what crime?
Roman counters.
Bringing a woman back from the dead? That's not exactly the kind of information you just hand over to the police. And even then, Marcus didn't do anything to Dorothy. We don't have anything to stand on with this.
Everyone is silent for a few moments, mulling over what we've just learned. I feel so blind. We don't have enough information. We don't know the answer to the all-important question, why? I think we need to have security sweep the city, Sigrid says. Give your employees his image. I imagine you've gotten some better photographs of the man's actual face.
I'm sending a dozen of them to everyone,
Mason confirms. Sigrid nods. Have them memorize his face. See if they can't find the man. We need our questions answered. Roman nods.
I'm already on it. Call back with any new information,
Sebastian says. Mason simply nods, and Elena ends the call. Is there ever a dull moment in Chicago, or did I just bring my bad luck with me? I ask, as I lean back on the couch.
There are over 400 vampires living in this city, and about 150 gifted,
Sebastian says, as he looks over at me, raising an eyebrow.
Trust me, you don't have that much of an influence on this city's problems.
Well, I say with a sigh, as I climb to my feet. That's a relief. Makes me question Elena's sanity just a bit. She swore up and down I'd be safe in Chicago, and so far, I'm not so convinced. I pull 2 bags of blood from the fridge and set them on the counter to warm for a few minutes. I've found it tastes more tolerable that way. Sebastian follows me from the couch, and I still when I see the look in his eyes.
I get the feeling you're not one who runs away when she feels unsafe,
he says. I see his eyes slide down to my lips, my neck. Goosebumps flash over my skin. I lean back against the counter, and Sebastian steps forward, just a few inches between us. Not really, I confess. Stupidity, bravery, I'm not sure I can see a difference most of the time. He crooks a smile at that and shakes his head.
I wish I had met you about 50 years ago, Juliet.
He leans just slightly closer. Why's that? I ask quietly, as my gaze drops to those lips.
Because from the night I stitched you up, I finally felt like I found someone who didn't want to run away from the dark parts of me,
he says softly, as he leans just marginally closer. I can barely think straight. The scent of him fills my lungs, my brain. Crisp and woodsy at the same time. I've never smelled anyone who smells as intoxicating as Sebastian Vincent. When you're forged in darkness, you don't often run from the darkness, I say, my words little more than a whisper. Sebastian raises a hand, caressing my cheek, his mouth only an inch away, which feels agonizingly far.
I can't stop thinking about you, Juliet. I can't stop replaying every damn moment we've spent together. I know you can defend yourself, but all I want to do is absolutely destroy any person who looks at you wrong.
The breath catches in my throat as slowly, Sebastian's eyes rise from my lips to meet my gaze.
You've brought the beast in me back to life,
he swears. Heat blazes through me when I feel his hand on my hip.
I'd do anything for you, Juliet, no matter what it takes.
I'm not always so black and white. I breathe. What if I need a partner and the line gets a little blurry? Sebastian nods.
Especially then.
And I can't take any more. I exterminate every last bit of distance between his mouth and my own. My lips are desperate for his, and with a sound that's somewhere between a growl and a moan, I think he's just as desperate. As our lips part and his tongue caresses my own, he hooks his hands under my arms, lifting me up until I'm sitting on the counter. I spread my legs just a little and grip him by the front of his shirt, pulling him tight to me. His hands are blazing as they caress my hips, pulling my body to his. I loop my arms behind his neck, kissing him faster, harder. I feel like I've been suffocating for my entire life, and Sebastian is the first bit of real oxygen I've ever encountered. My hand slides up his chest, and I know, on that skin beneath this shirt, there are scars. I know that in the time behind him, there are choices he isn't proud of, but they were choices he had to make, to survive. This is the desperate, starved kiss of two survivors. Sebastian, I pant, as I tip my head back and his lips trail down to my neck. I feel the teeth of his lower jaw graze my skin as they rise up to my flesh. I feel the heat of his mouth and the moisture on his lips as he caresses my neck. I don't have to be careful here. I don't have to check myself every single second, always terrified that I'll lose control and go too far. Sebastian doesn't smell like a meal. He smells like salvation and acceptance. My fingers lace into his hair, and I drag his mouth back to mine. A needy moan escapes my mouth, going straight into his, and he takes it. With his own hunger, Sebastian kisses me with more passion than I've ever felt.
You are my equal, Juliet,
he mutters against my lips. He rests his forehead against mine, his brows furrowed with intensity.
And now that I've found you, every moment away is constant agony. I want you, Juliet.
His hands rise to either side of my face, and he draws my eyes to his own dark ones.
I want every dark, complicated, twisted part of you.
The breath stills in me. I search his eyes as I feel something in me. I've always been an island, a self-sustaining moon with no attachment. But looking into Sebastian's eyes, I feel a tether. I feel something catch, and it doesn't come back when I tug on it. You mean that? I ask in a breath.
With every damn bone in my body,
Sebastian says, with so much conviction that not one bit of me doubts it. But we've only known each other for 6 months. The scared part of me tries to reason.
Does it feel like it's only been 6 months, Juliet?
He asks. I hear it rising in his voice. I don't know what it is, but I sense a collision coming. I shake my head because it's the honest truth. But this might get complicated. Mason and I—
Do you love him?
Sebastian asks. And there, I see his vulnerability. I see fear. I consider, but only for a moment. I do love Mason. I will always love him for everything he is and everything he has done. I even told him that once, and he said it in return. But it isn't the right kind of love. It isn't the kind of love that allows you to give your whole heart to another person, trusting that they will be the right one to protect it. No, I answer honestly, knowing the kind of love Sebastian is asking about. He shakes his head.
Then it doesn't matter,
he says.
Life is always going to be complicated, but I know we can do it together. I've never been one to worry what anyone thinks, but if you're concerned, I swear, Juliet, I will make it right, no matter how long it takes.
My heart is beating faster. Fear is holding me hostage. It's standing in my way, trying to tell me all the reasons why I shouldn't be jumping off this cliff. But that's it. Those are the only stumbling blocks my fear can come up with. Sebastian is a vampire too. Sebastian knows that I'm not always black and white. Sebastian understands the hard work it took to get here, the sacrifice, the tears, and the sorrow that made me into the person I am. And just like that, every ounce of uncertainty in me evaporates. Okay, Sebastian, I say with a breathy smile. I'm in. It reaches inside me and draws even more tethers from my heart when the smile dawns on Sebastian's face. And elation explodes in my core as he surges forward and he kisses me again. I've never had a home before. Maybe home was never a physical place. Maybe home is a place of peace and the surrendering of all your worries. Maybe, just maybe, Sebastian and I could become home.
I'm going to make the entire world see you as the goddess you are, Juliet.
Sebastian whispers into my lips. I'm a raging inferno. I'm a bullet shot into the sun. Everything in me is rushing through my body. It's impossible to cling to just one emotion. But there is one I can distinguish. Awe. I never thought I'd find this. And here it is. The man I once admitted I didn't like very much is now the person I crave the most. The man who has looked on me like I'm everything from the moment he met me is now the center of every obsessive thought. Sebastian Vincent is mine, and I am his. Chapter 10. I've just switched a load of laundry when there's a knock on the door. I'm not expecting anyone, so my brows instantly furrow. But as I look through the peephole, I let out a breathy chuckle. Oh, I forgot. I was expecting someone. Spill, Elena says, the moment I open the door. She pushes her way right on in, once again leaving Tabitha to stand guard out in the hall. I don't know what you're talking about. I play stupid. She walks into the center of my apartment before rounding, her hands on her hips, looking at me like I'm dumb. Do not play games with me, Juliet. Tell me why Sebastian was at your apartment last night, making you dessert. I let out a sigh and brushed my hands down the front of my clothes. Okay, but can you promise you won't freak out on me? No, Elena says, in the most duh tone ever. Not when you say it like that. Not when this just sprung up so out of the blue. Thank you. I deadpan with a narrowed look. That makes me feel very safe, very at ease talking to you. Come on, Juliet, my best friend says as she steps forward. She takes my hands in her own. I'm sorry. Talk to me. I barely see you anymore, and I miss you. I feel like we're missing out on each other's lives. I know, I say, as a weight settles inside of me. I've felt it too. Since I moved out of Godfrey Tower, I've only seen my best friend a handful of times, and it's been 4 months. I've missed you. We don't have to go and get all sentimental, she says with a smirk. She tugs me across the apartment to the couch, and we both curl up on it. Now, spill. I smile, knowing I'm probably blushing, but I take in one steadying breath, and I face the consequences of having a best friend who cares. Sebastian and I have gotten to know each other since I started working at the hospital, I say. And, well, he isn't what I expected. You mean he's not someone who could be an acting coach for pornos? Elena asks, as she raises a doubting eyebrow. I chuckle because she's not entirely wrong. That's kind of what I thought about him at first, too, but that's just a surface thing. You know, like how I use sarcasm as a shield from time to time. What? Elena balks in mock shock. Juliet? Never. I shake my head and laugh. I don't know. That's kind of what Sebastian does, but with the smoldering. But we've talked. A lot, actually. Juliet, you've got that look on your face, she says with a smirk. What look? The one that says something has happened. She wags her eyebrows at me. I know I'm blushing now. Kay, he asked me on a date last week, and I sigh because Elena is holding on to my every word, and the pressure is ridiculous. We kissed after. Elena sucks in a breath and sits back on the couch, shaking her head. I mean, I totally didn't see this coming, but now I kind of feel like an idiot for not predicting this. Why? I ask, surprised at how this is going. There's the fact that you two are practically a male and female version of the same person, Elena states, in such an obvious tone. I mean, you both have tragic backstories, neither of you likes people very much, and then there's the whole doctor thing. Shit, Juliet, I thought you and Mason were a good match, but now it seems stupidly obvious. Sebastian Vincent was practically hand-molded for you. Um, wow, glad for the approval, I say with a chuckle, still totally blown away at how this is going. Because we kind of made it official last night. Elena's eyebrows jump toward her hairline. As in, like, Sebastian is your boyfriend and you're his girlfriend? I roll my eyes and look away. I kind of hate those labels. They sound pretty damn juvenile when you're pushing 30. Forever 28, remember? Elena points out. Whatever, I say with a chuckle. Sebastian's nearly 120, if you want to get down to it. But yeah, I guess you could call us that, if it makes you happy. You know, surprisingly, it does, she says as she sits up, thinking it over. I didn't see this coming, but, well, it makes perfect sense. Maybe someday soon you'll even have a real last name, Juliet Vincent. It has a pretty nice ring to it. Slow down, overly excited little cheetah, I say with a blink and the shake of my head. I'm less than 24 hours into this relationship. No one is saying anything about vows and literal forever. Suddenly, a knock sounds on the door. And before I can do anything, Elena practically evaporates and reappears at the door. With her hand on the knob, she looks back at me and smiles. Hello, Sebastian, she says smugly as she pulls the door open and leans in the doorway. Sebastian's brows lift in surprise, and he looks from her to me, and he has this total oh shit look in his eyes. I have a feeling he knows exactly what to expect from my best friend. Evening, Elena, he says as he steps inside, looking nervous, as he should. Elena Godfrey isn't one to mess with. So, Juliet here has shared some interesting news with me, she purrs. And, like the predator he is, Sebastian's eyes harden when he looks at Elena now. If you have a problem with my feelings for Juliet, we can talk. But I can tell you, you're not going to talk me out of fighting for her. And he said exactly the right words, because a cat's smile begins forming on Elena's face. Actually, I was just berating myself for not seeing this match sooner. You two make perfect sense to me. As Sebastian's eyebrows rise, it's obvious he didn't expect that response. Glad to hear that, I guess. His eyes shift over to me, and something like excitement and hunger sparks in my blood at the sight of him. He's dressed in a suit today, though his white shirt is unbuttoned partway down his chest. He bears a leather satchel slung over his shoulder. He looks every bit the powerful vampire he is. A small smile curls on his lips, and he takes a step forward. I can't help but smile as my boyfriend places a hand on my hip and leans forward, brushing his lips over mine. Hey there, beautiful. Hey yourself, I say quietly as I slide my hands into my back pockets and try not to look embarrassed as my best friend observes our interaction. She looks very pleased. I think this might be the best surprise ever, she says. She crosses to the door, ready to leave, but looks back over her shoulder at us. But you know I have to hunt you down if you ever hurt her, right, Sebastian? You're Elena Godfrey, he says smoothly. I wouldn't expect anything less. She just gives one wink and then disappears out the door. She's kind of terrifying, Sebastian says in a low voice as he looks at me. But you hide the fear so well, I respond as he steps into me, and I loop my arms behind his neck. With a slow smile, he tips his face down to mine.
Hi.
he says, low and quiet. Hi, I whisper back, every bit of me igniting to life. And I feel like I'm filled with frantic awareness as his lips meet mine. The kiss is deep but steady. I take in a breath, drawing his into my own lungs. His teeth take my lower lip, his hands tightening on my back. I've never felt this kind of burning before. The burning for someone. The deep, soul-absorbing desire to be one being with someone else. Sebastian draws need and desire right up from the tips of my toes, turning me inside out.
I have a surprise for you,
He says in a low voice as he braces a hand on the side of my neck, trailing his lips down my jawline. Oh? I question, my mind completely scattered. I feel him nod, the rough hair of his short beard scraping against my neck.
Come on,
He says, as he regretfully steps away from me. I let out an annoyed sound at the separation. He simply gives me a smirk, takes my hand, and pulls me to the door.
We'll be late for work if we don't leave now.
Better not tell the boss, I tease, as we step out into the hall and I lock my door. There's a look on Sebastian's face at that, though I can't quite decipher it. But he presses the button for the elevator and it opens almost instantly.
I think I could do this every day for a long time, Juliet,
He says as he stands at my side. He looks down between us and takes my hand.
Walking to work with you, spending any moment possible with you.
You're making it really hard for me not to feel like a lunatic, I say, as I slide in front of him. Slowly, I run a hand up his chest, letting my eyes go with the movement. Is this how normal people feel when they catch feelings?
I wouldn't know.
He answers in a growl as he places his hand over mine, pinning my hand against his chest.
You and I never have been, and never will be, normal.
A smile pulls at my lips, and I don't hesitate as I rock forward onto the balls of my feet and rise to press my lips to his. But just then, the elevator door dings and slides open. So I simply bite my lower lip and step out into the lobby, taking Sebastian's hand, pulling him after me. The night is cold. Fall in Chicago can quickly mirror winter, but I don't feel it. The wind doesn't get to me as it picks up in intensity. I'm not even bothered by the distant sounds of sirens, wondering who was shot tonight and if they'll end up in my ER. We walk, hand in hand, to the hospital that's helped bring us together.
To my office,
He indicates as he nods in that direction. So, wondering what he has planned today, we walk into the depths of the hospital, to the door that bears his name. I close the door behind me, and Sebastian sets his bag down on his chair. And then, from his desk, he grabs a piece of paper. He looks up at me from beneath his dark lashes and smiles.
It's time, Juliet.
He hands it over, and my hands are steady as I accept it. The American Board of Internal Medicine affirms that Juliet Doe, MD, has met all requirements of this board and is hereby confirmed as a diplomat of this board in the specialty of emergency medicine. Below that, there is a certificate number, a seal, and half a dozen signatures. I blink 3 times, trying to process what this piece of paper means. Done. It means I'm done. I'm official. I'm a fully certified doctor. What the hell, Sebastian? I bark. My brows furrow together, and my eyes jump to his. Red, hot anger rips through my veins. We commit to a relationship, and you go and pull this out the very next day? Sebastian's expression creases in confusion. I flick the paper at him. You can't just go and give me my board certification because we're together now, I rage. Shit, Sebastian, you said you won't hide your favoritism, but you can't just go handing the title of doctor out to people who commit to being your girlfriend. Sebastian lowers his face, looking at me from beneath his lashes. In slow steps, he walks out from behind his desk.
Juliet, This has nothing to do with you being my girlfriend, though I hate that word with just about every fiber of my being. It has everything to do with the fact that I cannot always be at this hospital with my responsibilities to the night council. It has everything to do with the fact that there is no one I trust this hospital to more than you.
And that rapid heat that consumed me instantly cools. Familiar regret and embarrassment begin replacing it.
Juliet,
Sebastian says as he reaches for my hands.
you already would have been done with your residency if it weren't for your resurrection. You already would have been done if not for needing a few weeks to gain control over your thirst. I've never met someone so ready to do this.
I let out a breath, realizing I was just an ass.
Juliet, I've been doing this on my own for so long,
Sebastian says, his tone low, calm.
I've been looking for a partner for a long time, and no one has been able to handle what this hospital is all about in the way you do.
He reaches up, caressing the side of my face. His gaze is so intense, so genuine. It's intimidating how much confidence there is in them.
Juliet, I'm doing this because I want you to be able to act as co-president.
Holy shit. I suck in a breath, at a loss for words. We've only known each other for 6 months. We work amazingly together, but is he really so sure of me? Sebastian built this hospital from scratch. It's one of the highest rated facilities in all of Chicago. It's a place for the supernatural, the vampires, when they need help. And we only just committed last night. Sebastian has made me feel accepted, understood, but this is a whole new level. He's trusting me as a partner. Sebastian, are you sure? I breathe. You've put everything into this place. You don't have to give me anything. I would never ask you for this. A small smile pulls on his mouth.
I know you wouldn't, which is why I am asking, why I'm offering it at your capable feet. You're everything I've been looking for, Juliet.
My heart is pounding so hard. I've never had any true responsibility in my entire life. I had no one but myself to take care of. I had to go to classes, but no one but me cared if I showed up or not. I had rent to pay. But this. Sebastian is offering me a massive responsibility to take on. As I look into his eyes, though, I see the weight this has been on him. How long he's carried everything on his shoulders. So I reach a hand up, caressing my hand against the side of his neck, and emotion bites at the backs of my eyes when I answer. Okay, Sebastian. Thank you. He takes my hand and squeezes his eyes closed as he presses a kiss to the center of my palm. And he stays like that, taking slow breaths in and out for several long moments. The pain that comes from carrying on alone for so long is filling the room. It's so thick, I can practically scoop it out of the air. But as he opens his eyes and looks at me, I see it begin to flake away.
Thank you, Juliet,
he whispers as he slides his hand around to the small of my back and presses his lips to mine. This is something different. This is something I've never experienced before. This is the kind of relationship that is as adult as it gets. The kind that begins to build a foundation of trust and reliance that can last a long, long time.
Also, I really, really hope you always feel like you can yell at me like that,
he says, with a barely suppressed smile.
Your temper and frequent lack of filter are just a couple of the things that made me fall for you.
Well, I don't think you ever have to worry about me hesitating and yelling when I'm mad, I say, and Sebastian chuckles.
Come on,
he says, as he brushes his thumb over my bottom lip.
We have a meeting to get to. I'm making the announcement to the staff.
Oh. This isn't just an agreement between the two of us. This is going public. This is public acknowledgement. Sebastian introduces me at the meeting as his partner, the word implying so much more than just in business. He tells them that if I say or ask for anything, it is the very same as if he were to say or ask for it. Sebastian has just made me a copy of the key to his kingdom. Chapter 11.
Have Sigrid and Malcolm found your father yet?
Roman and I stand at the top of the stairs at the Night Council's building. Once upon a time, I was too stunned by the beauty of this place to notice that it has a name engraved into its stone surface. The Nocturne. How fitting. The Night Council called a meeting, and Sebastian smoothly informed the other council members that if he was going to the meeting, so was I. I honestly wasn't sure how I felt about that. Wasn't this his reason for giving me my new position? So I could keep an eye on the hospital when he needed to fulfill his duties to the council? This was his position, not mine. I didn't need to butt my way into every single aspect of his life. Still, I'm a nosy little thing sometimes. Not yet, I answer. This conversation and situation is terse. Sigrid is trying to track him using my blood, but she's never done it before, so who knows if it'll work. Roman doesn't say anything. He looks up and down the road, waiting for the others.
Has it happened again?
I look over at him. What, me dying? He simply nods. I scoff. No, dying is something I try to only do once every 4 months, so I'm not due for another death for a few weeks. Roman looks over at me with dark, unappreciative eyes.
Does he know?
My instinct is to ask who, but I know exactly what he's asking. Sebastian did demand I come here, after all. No, I answer as I look away from him. And I'd like it to stay that way.
No wonder your relationships don't last,
Roman observes.
You build it on secrets, and it tends to crumble the element of trust.
You're a serious ass, you know that? I bark back instantly. Good grief. Just when I start to think he's somewhat tolerable, he goes and fires off shit like this. I would rather you not know this little secret either, but unfortunately, you're the only witness. And the more people who know, the more at risk I am, and the more at risk they are. Why am I even explaining myself to you? I huff in frustration. And thankfully, I'm saved from having to further explain when a limousine pulls up to the curb. Patrick, Mason's driver, jumps out and opens the door for him, Elena, and Tabitha. They climb out, and just as they start up the stairs, Sigrid comes striding around the corner. Where's Sebastian? Elena asks, when she surveys the crowd and finds him missing. He's finishing a surgery, I explain. He was nearly finished when I left. He should be here in just a few minutes. She simply nods and walks past us all to walk into the building. I hold Mason's gaze as he ascends the stairs. He holds my eyes, and I try to evaluate what he's thinking. He knows. He knows now that I'm with Sebastian, that it's official. Something he and I never were. His expression is blank, but the tightness in his eyes tells me he's trying really hard to keep control over it. So I can only give him a tiny smile and let him walk past me. My darling, Sigrid says as she walks up, Amy in tow, and wraps her arms around me. I wish I had better news to bear. I let out a sigh. It's okay. To be honest, I didn't think it would really work. It does not mean we will stop trying, she says, as she leans back, looking into my eyes. So long as John Bonny is alive, there is always a chance. I press my lips together and nod. I hear there is other news to share, she says as she arches an eyebrow. You and Dr. Vincent? Ugh. I can't help it when the groan escapes my lips. I kind of wish I could just make the announcement to all of Chicago so we can just get this part over with. Yes, Sebastian and I are together now. It's been really wonderful. We're both really happy. The sound of footsteps behind pulls our eyes, and we both watch as Sebastian starts up the steps. His eyes fix on me, and there's something hungry and territorial in them. I barely even notice the man following after him. Obviously, Sigrid says with a smile and an arched brow. I give a single little laugh and accept Sebastian's kiss as he reaches for my hand. Everything went okay? I ask. He nods.
Patient is doing great and will be awake in about 20 minutes. I hurried over as soon as I was done. By the way, Juliet, this is Rick.
I give a nod to the man following Sebastian. He is huge and has what must be hundreds of tattoos covering both his massive arms, leaving not a bit of blank skin. He has a shaved head and a huge beard. He simply gives me a nod, but doesn't say anything. I give him a similar nod in return, not knowing what to say to this bodyguard who only accompanies Sebastian to council meetings.
I hope your day has been pleasant.
Sebastian greets her pleasantly as we walk up the remaining steps. Indeed, Sigrid says as we step inside, and the bodyguards close the doors behind us. We make our way to the ballroom and step through the second set of doors. It's impossible to miss it. As soon as Sebastian and I walk through the doors, every single set of eyes snaps to our interlaced fingers. Elena gives a little smirk. Roman looks as annoyed and pissed off as ever. And Mason's eyes stay fixed on our clasped hands, but he holds on to that blank poker face with an iron will.
Please excuse my tardiness,
Sebastian says as he approaches the table. He pulls a chair out for me. I take it as the others lower into seats, and Sebastian sits at my side.
Someday, kids will stop swallowing things they're not supposed to swallow, but today is not that day.
It's fine, Elena excuses him, as if she's the one in charge. I wonder, if it really came down to it, who really is the most in charge? There are basically 4 leaders here: Sebastian, Sigrid, Roman, and then Mason and Elena are co-chairs to their position. What if there is a tie? Who gets to make that final call? Let's get into it. I have a flight out to Memphis in an hour.
Marcus has been spotted in the city 3 times,
Roman says.
2 of those times were caught on surveillance cameras. One of my men saw him with his own eyes, but didn't get a chance to get his hands on him.
Where? Sebastian asks as he leans back in his seat, his brows furrowed.
Surveillance caught him coming out of a grocery store in Hyde Park,
Roman continues. And as he speaks, Sigrid lays her hands on the table's surface. Instantly, a bright green map shoots out on its surface, her eyes alighting to the same color. Roman stands and points to the point where Marcus was spotted.
My guy spotted him in a cemetery in Maywood.
Roman points to the spot, directly west of where we are now.
And surveillance caught his face on camera leaving another cemetery in Wrigleyville. 2 cemeteries,
Mason says.
But as far as we know, he hasn't brought anyone else back? Not that we've encountered,
Sebastian says as he looks at me.
Sigrid, have you heard of any other gifted back from the dead?
No, she says with the shake of her head, her eyes still glowing a brilliant green. We've managed to pull more of his record, Elena says, as she pulls out a stack of papers. It seems he was on the move after he graduated high school. He was in Florida and got a breaking and entering charge. Then he got charged with a DUI and underage drinking in Ohio. His last charge is here in Chicago, 5.5 years ago, disorderly conduct. Something prickles in the back of my brain. He was on the move, all these violent charges, and then he happened to end up in Chicago 5.5 years ago. Oh my gosh, the words breathe out of me. With wide eyes, I look up from the table to Sigrid. Malcolm said there were still outliers, that he had a cult. I shake my head because it's suddenly spinning. The past is suddenly bleeding into the present. Archer King traveled around, taking the gifts of others. Malcolm told me that you all killed him 5 years ago.
Holy shit,
Roman breathes out in angry disgust.
That damn necromancer is looking for the collector's burial place so he can bring him back from the dead.
My entire body feels cold. I've seen Archer King before, not with my own eyes, but through the eyes of my past, through the gifted hands of the historian, aka Malcolm Talos. I watched as my mother cursed me and then snapped my neck as a newborn, because right on her tail was Archer King. I saw when he wrapped his hand around her neck as that evil green light emanated from him, and then the light in my mother's eyes died and went out. As Sigrid meets my terrified gaze, her own eyes are wide, fear creeping into her normally calm and steady eyes. For night's sake, Elena says, as she falls back against the back of her seat. Archer nearly took out our dad. You looked like death for a whole month after taking him out, Sebastian. I look over at my partner, and he nods as he looks at me. I got my hands around his neck, but as soon as I touched him, it was like I was poisoned. My hands withered up, my arms and legs started wasting away. It was one of the gifts he'd absorbed. It nearly killed me. But why has he waited this long? Mason asks. Archer has been dead for 5 years. Why wait all this time to try and bring him back? He got a degree in biochemistry, right? I ask as I lean forward, placing my palms against the glowing table. Maybe he could use his gift before, but not effectively. Maybe he knew he couldn't truly bring Archer back until he studied more. The timing. I shake my head. I can't believe we're having this discussion. The timing all adds up. He was Archer's lackey when he was just a teenager. And then, as soon as Archer dies, he gets his act together and goes to college? And lo and behold, just a few months after he graduates, he starts looking for his leader once again. Shit, Roman growls as he leans forward, planting his elbows on the table and scrubs his hands over his face. He was practicing on Dorothy, Sigrid fills in. And once he knew he could do it, he started searching for Archer's final resting place. That's why he's been spotted in multiple cemeteries. Where is Archer buried? I ask. I'm nearly ready to spring to my feet and run to the place myself so I can stand guard and make sure this necromancer never raises the man who killed my mother. Everton Cemetery, Roman says, his voice dropping lower, quieter, as if Marcus might be listening in. Nearly the most southwestern corner of the city. And one of the most haunted in the state, Sigrid adds. Really? I ask, looking around at the others, wondering if they're messing with me. It was one of Al Capone's favorite places to dump bodies, Sebastian says. It's surrounded by woods, private. There are all kinds of stories about that place, Mason says. Orbs, women wandering, disappearing houses. It's not a place you want to hang out. If this is really what Marcus is trying to do, and I think Juliet is right, Roman says as he stabs his finger into the table, right where we are on Sigrid's map. It changes things. This isn't just about asking him what the hell he's doing with Dorothy. It means he's going to find the collector and bring that bastard back. It means we can't take him in quietly. It means Roman thinks we have to kill Marcus Lonto. I've never been black and white. I've never walked the straight and narrow. But I've never killed someone on purpose. I've never put a plan in place to end someone's life. Is this too far? Is it too much? Maybe I should be a little clearer on this answer. The man Marcus is trying to bring back from the dead killed my mother. He robbed me of any kind of a childhood. Because of him, I am the distrusting, broken person I am today. Does that mean Marcus should die? We need twice as many eyes on the cameras around the city. Elena perks up. Mason, can we hack into the CPD's system and use their facial recognition? Most likely, he answers, as he rubs 2 fingers over his lips. I can get my people on it. We need security posted at Archer's grave, Elena continues, as her eyes slide over to Roman. Letting him anywhere near that grave isn't an option. Roman simply nods. And you need to be careful, I interject, like I'm really a part of this group, these leaders. If he's watching us, if he's watching you, you have to make sure you don't lead him straight to that cemetery. I have a feeling he'll find it eventually, Roman says, as he leans back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. He's already been in 3 cemeteries, and those are just the ones we have proof of. He's obviously making his way through them all. Then we need to find him, and quick, Sebastian says, his tone rough, dangerous. In the meantime, I wonder if you should reach out to all of your charges, give them Marcus's face, and tell them to protect themselves. If he manages to bring Archer back, they are all in danger. I will, Sigrid says, as she removes her hands from the table and the map disappears. I will prepare them. They can help be our eyes. Everyone knows what they need to do, Elena asks. Everyone around the table nods.
I expect constant contact. If there is anything, you inform the others. Of course, Sigrid says. Roman doesn't even say anything. He's instantly on his feet, his phone pressed to his ear, walking out of the ballroom. Everyone gets to their feet, gathering their things, and slowly, we all make our way to the doors. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I ask quietly, leaning toward Mason. His eyes flick over to me, hesitant, but he nods. I'll catch up with you in a little bit, okay? I say when Sebastian looks back. Sure, he says, though there is some hesitation in his eyes. They go from me to Mason and back to me. He lingers on the steps for just a moment, and then, with a worried little smile, he turns and walks down them. Elena just gives us a questioning look. We'll just be a couple minutes, I promise her. I love my best friend, but Mason and I need some privacy for a bit. I will see you later, my dear Juliet, Sigrid says, pulling me in for a brief hug and a quick kiss at my temple. With a smile, she heads down the stairs, Elena going with her before she slips into the limo. So, I thought we should probably talk a little bit, I say, looking over at Mason with an awkward smile. Since, things are a little different. Different, Mason says, as his eyes go down to the stones at his feet. I have to say, I didn't see Sebastian coming, but maybe that was just stupid of me. Well, I didn't see him coming either, so if you're stupid, so am I chuckle. But Mason doesn't smile. Look, we promised that we would always be friends, I say, starting to feel just a little bit desperate, because as I'm standing here alone with him, I'm remembering all the things we did together. When we took fighting lessons, when we spent hours in his office, and I watched him be the best man in this city. When he gave me the most generous gift anyone ever could have given me by taking me to the historian and giving me the answers to my past. It's not just the moments we spent wrapped up in each other's arms that I miss. It's those moments. And we knew it was going to be hard when it ended, and I know it has to feel weird that I'm with Sebastian now. You have no idea how guilty I feel about it, even though I know I didn't do anything wrong, but I just want to make sure that you don't hate me, and that someday we'll be okay. I take in 5 deep, ragged breaths, because suddenly, with all those words spoken, I feel exhausted. But those words have been eating me alive, and I haven't been able to admit them out loud. I'm not jealous because Sebastian has you, Juliet. Not that you're a possession, he counters himself. He shakes his head and takes a deep breath, pacing back and forth just like he always used to. I'm jealous because he understands you, and I never could, and I never will. Suddenly, he stills, his eyes locked on mine. He gives one shrug. We said it over and over, that what happened between us wasn't love. And it wasn't. Not that kind of love, anyway. But still, it was all too easy to imagine a future. Imagine what might be if things were different. The words hurt. Because I am the other half of what happened. It hurt then, it hurts now. Because the heart doesn't always think logically. But we never would have worked out, Juliet, Mason says. His voice gets quiet, and the pain in his eyes. He shakes his head. I would have tried for my whole life, but where we've come from, I know I can never understand what you've gone through. So I just want you to understand. I am jealous. I am so damn jealous, because Sebastian understands you in a way that I never could. Mason is possibly the best person I've ever met. He's the Golden Prince of Chicago. Not only is he rich and ridiculously handsome, but he is kind. He is good. He is sweet and thoughtful. Mason would have done anything to try and make me happy. But he's right. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He grew up with loving parents and a twin sister who always had his back. I've never known any of that. I knew trailer parks and wondering when my next meal was coming. I knew constant change. I knew harsh words and cruel caregivers. I'm jealous, Mason says, his voice quiet. But I'm also so damn glad for you, Juliet. My eyes rise back up to meet his.
And I see in them that he means what he says. Mason is happy for me. Because that's just the saint he is.
It's hard, Juliet,
he says as he takes a step forward and grabs one of my hands.
But not like you probably thought. But it's going to be okay. I'm going to get my head wrapped around this. And you and I are always going to be friends.
Emotions bite at the backs of my eyes. We said the words once. We made promises once that we would always remain friends no matter what happened. But I honestly didn't expect him to hold up his end of the bargain. People always walk out on me. But here, standing under the cover of this crazy building, I can see it in his eyes. I can feel it in the way he holds my hands. Mason is here to stay. Even if it's hard, even if it's complicated. I blink, and 2 tears leak out onto my cheeks. I take a sniff as I pull him forward, wrapping my arms around him. And it's finally done. I don't think about being in the arms of my former lover, even if we never made love. I'm just in the arms of my friend, Mason. Thank you, I say, with a thick throat.
Always,
he says calmly, squeezing me tightly. Chapter 12. I watch as Mason walks down the stairs to his waiting limo, and just as they pull away from the curb, I hear an angry curse just down the block. I look over to see Roman as he hangs up his phone and strides toward his SUV. What's wrong? I ask.
Marcus was spotted by a camera in South Chicago,
Roman answers.
Only about half a mile from the cemetery.
Shit, I breathe, and without thinking, I cross to Roman's car and climb right in the passenger seat. Do you have anyone in the area? I ask when he gets in the driver's seat and buckles, revving the engine to life.
No, he answers. Had no reason to think there was a need until now.
He lays harder on the gas, gunning it through the quiet streets. I'm thankful it's 3 a.m. Otherwise, we'd be mowing down pedestrians left and right. Just how bad was it? I ask, as I brace myself when he takes a sharp turn. When Archer was here before.
He laid low for a few months when he first arrived,
Roman answers.
We just thought he had a lot of gifted friends. We didn't realize they were devout followers. No one thought too much of it when the first gifted was found dead. It's Chicago, after all.
He makes another hard turn, and then hits the gas, running through a red light with a thankfully empty intersection.
But then, there were 3 more found just a week later, and these weren't low-level gifted. They were more powerful ones. Ones who should probably have been able to defend themselves.
But all Archer had to do was touch them, and he had an army of followers. I observe. Roman nods.
It wasn't until the Godfrey's father witnessed Archer doing what he did that we realized it was him, what he could do. Archer went after him, and Edward Godfrey spent 2 weeks in some kind of coma, so that was even more time until we knew it was him. Over the course of a few months, he tore through dozens of gifted, killing every single one of them.
I curse under my breath and watch the city whip by as Roman flies through the streets.
Do you think you could do it?
Roman asks. His gaze shifts over to me, and even though his eyes aren't on the road, I know we're in no danger of him wrecking the car, not with his vampire instincts. I'm pretty sure I could drive this thing with my eyes closed.
If you were to find him, could you kill Archer King?
My heart hammers hard in my chest. Roman's question implies that a man who has been dead for 5 years could come back. He's talking about the man who killed my mother. My hesitation must be answer enough because Roman looks away, looking slightly disgusted and disappointed.
We do whatever it takes to protect the ones we care about, Juliet,
he says.
Find someone to care about.
I want to spit back, tell him I care about people. But his words give me pause. How far would I go to protect the people I care about? I honestly don't know. I only recently found people I care about, and I've yet been put to the test over them. We rocket through the night, and finally, Roman pulls into the parking lot of what looks like any other park to me. He climbs out, and I follow. And like a bullet fired from a gun, he sprints, impossibly fast, across the highway. I follow, right on his heels. There's a power station, and then we pass a marshy pond. We follow a slightly overgrown trail through the trees in the moonlight, and then the space opens up. The cemetery is old, and it doesn't look particularly full. I spot a few headstones popping out of the ground, but for the most part, it just looks like cut grass and a few remaining trees. But it's unmistakable when we see a mound of freshly disturbed dirt and a shovel poking out of it.
Shit,
Roman breathes. We cross to the far edge of the cemetery, and both of us look down into the pit. There's the broken-up lid to the burial vault. Below that, we see the open lid of the coffin, and it's completely empty. I can assume this was Archer's final resting place? I ask.
Not so final, it appears.
Roman growls. I cast my eyes around the cemetery, searching the dark. I can still smell the scent of something foul, like the scent of a rotting body beginning to reform itself. I can still catch a faint whiff of another person, and it's not that old. A few hours, maybe. We just missed them earlier tonight, I state. Dorothy wasn't in great shape when she staggered into the ER, and she had only been dead a year. Archer would have been a heavily decayed corpse by this point. There's no way he would be moving very fast if he puts himself back together at the same rate. They can't be that far unless Marcus has a car.
Who the hell knows?
Roman hisses. Once more, he's on his phone, making calls. I give him his space as he talks to his people, updating information and giving orders. I cast my eyes around the place, goosebumps rising on my arms. This place feels dark. It feels unsettled. It's like I can feel the restlessness of all those who lie buried in the ground, as if they're pressing in and saying, "What about us?" People are supposed to stay dead when they die. But as I've learned in the past several months, that isn't always the case. Roman ends one call, then immediately starts another.
It's too late,
he says.
Archer's grave has been exhumed. No body.
I hear the sound of a chorus of curse words on the other line, one for each night council member.
I think you need to tell your charges to go into lockdown,
Roman says, addressing Sigrid.
As far as we know, that's what Archer really cares about. Dorothy came back to life with her ability. We have to assume Archer will be the same way.
I will, she says.
Keep an eye out,
Roman says, and then ends the call. Guess we better start looking, I say, letting out a heavy sigh. With a nod, I follow Roman back down the trail. We once more cross the highway and slip back into his SUV.
What are the odds, having 3 people in this city who can't seem to stay dead?
He says, as he backs out of his parking space and pulls back onto the highway. At least I was never a rotting corpse, I point out.
Guess it doesn't get to that point when you only stayed dead for 20 minutes,
he quips. I was dead for 4 whole days once, remember? I reminded him. That one sucked. The other times didn't hurt. You know, other than being stabbed in the heart. I glance over, and I'm surprised when Roman quirks the tiniest of smiles. I'm not going to lie, I say, the mood instantly sobering. I'm kind of freaked out about Archer King being brought back. He chased my mom for months, threatened my dad enough my mother had to curse him that he couldn't find her. And then she was so scared of him taking my gift, whatever the hell it is, that she had to kill me. This guy is bad news.
Yeah,
Roman agrees.
This city is going to be on high alert until he's found. And last time we took him down.
He shakes his head.
It wasn't a quick, simple job. But so long as no one else knows you have some kind of gift, you shouldn't be a target. Archer can't take anything from vampires, so we're only a threat to him.
You ever feel like secrets are going to suffocate you? I ask, as I look out the window at the horizon. It's starting to lighten, dawn only half an hour away.
I think it's important to find people you don't have to keep secrets from,
Roman says, as he dangles his wrist over the steering wheel. That's easy to say. But life isn't so simple. Sometimes we have to keep secrets because they keep us safe, and they protect others. We take the long way home. We weave through side roads, go through parking garages, up alleyways. No sign of any rotting corpses. So, when the sun is just minutes from rising, Roman stops at the curb to my building. I climb out, but just before I can slam the door closed, Roman calls out,
"If it comes down to it, you might be the only one who can stand up to him,"
Roman says, those vivid blue eyes fixed on me.
"If it comes down to it, are you willing to die for the people you care about? For the people of Chicago?"
My heart hammers hard in my chest. It hits different this time for some reason. Yeah, I answer honestly. I am. And I turn and walk into my building. I can't be killed. So as long as my mother's curse is in place, and I don't know what would ever break it, I can die. But I'll just wake up 20 minutes later. I can live my life so differently now. Maybe I can be the one to take this zombie asshole down. Where are you, Archer King? I think I'm getting a craving for revenge. Chapter 13. Nothing has been going right today. So far, there have been no sightings of Marcus or Archer. Every gifted is in lockdown or risking their lives by continuing as if nothing is wrong. There isn't much the Night Council can do. At the hospital, it was one disaster after another coming in. A stab wound to the neck. They bled out before we could do much. An overdose. We couldn't get their stomach pumped fast enough. A baby with a horrific respiratory infection. That one was heartbreaking when she took her last breath. I haven't felt this heavy and low for a really long time. Sebastian has been almost entirely silent since the baby passed and our shift ended. We walk back to my apartment in total silence, the weight and frustration of the day a heavy physical thing floating in the air. Most nights, we're gods, saving lives and looking into the eyes of thankful patients and their families. Tonight, we're the screw-ups who couldn't do our jobs. We faced screams and tears and accusations. I know it's part of the job. Having tough skin is a requirement for working in the emergency room. But nights like this are still hard. It's easy to get in your head, to question yourself, to wonder what more you could have done. Silently, Sebastian and I rise to my floor in the elevator, and slowly we walk down the hall to my door. I unlock it, and we both step inside. I dump my things on the counter and walk toward the window as I comb my fingers through my hair. We never appreciate the easy moments when we're in them. They pass by so quickly, and then when times get hard, everything seems to crawl by. Behind me, I hear Sebastian dump his things on the counter as well. I turn, looking back at him over my shoulder. His shoulders are slumped, his head hanging low. His brows are furrowed together in frustration and exhaustion. He stands there with his hands braced on the countertop, and he stares at it as if it's the cause of all the difficulty as of late. When so many things are out of your control, when there is so much terrible going on, you have to make your own moments of good. I never had a grasp on that concept until recently. But staring at this man right now, everything that makes me feel good and alive all points back to him. Hey, I say as I turn. And just as Sebastian looks up at me, I walk straight into him. I hardly slow as one of my hands grips the front of his shirt, and the other snakes behind his head to grip his hair. And my mouth takes his as my own. He lets out a feral groan, taking my kiss as if he's starving. He catches me with ease as I take a slight jump, wrapping my legs around his waist. His hands splay wide against my hips, holding me in place as if I weigh nothing at all, which, to a vampire, I do. Sebastian spins us and pins my back against a wall, and the contact between our two bodies is fantastic. His hips grind into my own. His chest is pressed into mine, and he tips my head back as he deepens the kiss. I let out a sigh, my focus going to where his hands slide up beneath my shirt, his palms pressing flat against my sides. His hands are warm, slightly rough. I loop my arms behind his neck, pulling him tighter to me, stroking my tongue against his own. This is why we work, because we've both had the same horrible day. We haven't even had to say a word, because he knows, I know. I'm just as frustrated and exhausted as he is. And after all of it, he and I can still find our way here and be on completely level ground. I tilt my head to the side, taking my lips down the sharp edge of Sebastian's jaw. I lick down the side of his neck, and he rewards me with the most heady groan ever as he tips his head back. Sebastian tastes like pain and anger. He tastes like history and secrets. He tastes like power and confidence. His hand comes to my jaw, and he brings my mouth back to his. He presses harder into me, running one hand down my hip, gripping me, and supporting me on the outside of my thigh. There's nothing fragile about us. There's nothing careful or hesitant about what is between us. And I've never, ever had that. I wiggle, sliding my legs down until my feet hit the floor. I grip the front of Sebastian's shirt and back into my bedroom, dragging him after me. There's heat and hunger in his eyes, and it sends a jolt of thrill through me. With a wicked grin, I turn him and then push him back against the bed, and he lets himself fall back into a seated position. I climb right into his lap, one knee braced on either side of his hips. That look on his face, the one that says how much he wants me, how turned on he is, how possessive of me he is. I'm burning with it. I lace both my hands through his hair, tilting his head back, keeping me in control of this kiss. I take it deeply, slowly. I'm aching. I'm starving. My body is screaming for this, everything in me begging for it, telling me it's the right time, the right place, the right person. My hands reach for the hem of my shirt, and I pull it off over my head. With a wicked grin, I look down at the man who has come to invade every corner of my heart. He's smiling, but not the kind of smile I'm expecting.
Juliet,
he says, as he reaches a finger up, tracing it over the strap of my emerald green bra.
I feel like you may be trying to seduce me.
And you may be right, I say with a smile, as I bend forward to kiss him again. He just slightly turns his head to the side, avoiding my kiss. Softly, gently, he presses a kiss to my shoulder instead. Light as a feather, his fingers brush up my back before they flatten against my rib cage.
I'm not that kind of man, Juliet,
he says softly. His eyes rise back up to meet mine. The sincerity in them surprises me.
Believe me,
he breathes.
You are everything I want. Every fantasy I've had in the last 6 months has been about you. You are...
He draws in a deep breath as his eyes fall to my chest, and he runs his hands up the sides of my arms. He leans forward, pressing a kiss to my breastbone, high enough to be chaste-ish, low enough to be incredibly intimate.
The most beautiful woman I've ever laid eyes on.
I don't know how to feel right now. Rejected, offended, confused, let down. Too many emotions are ripping through me to grab onto one single feeling.
But you have to remember, I'm from a different time,
he says. His tone is low and even, though intensity burns in his eyes.
I'm not a man who takes a woman who isn't my wife.
He shakes his head, maybe looking slightly embarrassed.
I haven't been with anyone but my wife.
Oh. I've made so many assumptions about Sebastian. His flirtatiousness, his coy smile, everything about the way he looks, I've just assumed. But you know what they say about assumptions. They just make an ass out of you.
I love every moment of being with you, Juliet,
Sebastian says softly, as his eyes once again meet mine.
You're the first thing I think about when I wake, and the last thing on my mind before I fall asleep. But
He trails off, but he doesn't break my gaze. But he won't sleep with a woman he isn't married to. Old-fashioned indeed, but incredibly sweet, incredibly hot. I reach my hands up, cupping the sides of his face. He's studying my reaction as I look down at him. You never cease to surprise me, Sebastian, I say. My own tone is quiet, even. You might have warned me before I got all hot and bothered. He and I both laugh, and he looks down for just a moment, and it just thrills me more that I can make him blush. But this is by no means a deal breaker. This is important to you. I can respect that. The look in his eyes deepens. He reaches up, brushing his thumb over my lips just once.
You're so damn perfect, Juliet. How did I ever get lucky enough to find you? Out of all the people on this planet, and I finally found you?
Feels something like fate, I say, my eyes trailing to his lips again. He nods just barely.
Kind of makes you wonder what else fate has in store for us,
He says, as his own eyes go to my lips.
Better be careful, Miss Doe, or I might just give you more than my hospital.
My heartbeat quickens at that. Elena teased it once about losing my non-name and gaining the one of Vincent. A name, a ring, a new place to live, not alone, a new title. It's not so hard to imagine it. It's really, really easy, in fact. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying, but a thrill spikes through me from my core to my scalp. So I lean forward and I kiss Sebastian again. His lips heat mine. Hot and moist, he takes my lower lip between his teeth. The needy way his fingers dig into my skin reassures me that he does want me. He does want me in that way. But I won't rush him. Some things are worth waiting for. He wraps his arms tightly around my waist and leans back into the bed. He rolls to the side and reaches a hand to the side of my face as he kisses me.
I feel like the universe has forgiven me for all the bad things I've done,
he says against my lips.
Surely I can't still be cursed for my sins if I've finally found you.
Maybe we've both finally found redemption, I say, as I open my eyes to meet his hazel ones. He rubs a thumb over my lips again, studying me, memorizing every feature of me. It's all so new. I've never had a relationship like this before. I've never cared to be so careful, to try and do things just right. But looking at the man holding me, I know it's worth it. And even though both of us are vampires, we each fall asleep in the other's arms. A rapid-fire knocking rips me from my sleep. I roll out of bed, instantly on my feet, my knees slightly bent. Adrenaline bursts through my veins, and automatically, my fangs lengthen in my mouth. Sebastian, are you in there? Elena barks from the other side of the door. I swear, if you don't answer right this minute, I'm going to break this damn door down, and you're going to have to pay for it.
What the hell, Elena?
He growls. He climbs out of bed, his hair a wild mess, wearing no shirt and only his pants. He heads to the door. I follow after him, forgetting I'm wearing nothing but an oversized t-shirt and bright blue panties. Sebastian rips the door open, glaring darkly at Elena.
You forget how to use a cell phone?
You forget how to charge or answer it? She asks as she crosses her arms over her chest. That goes for the both of you. I've been trying to reach either one of you for an hour. Crap, I forgot to plug it in before I fell asleep. I groan as I look over at the kitchen counter and see it sitting there.
Same,
Sebastian says as he lets out a hard breath through his nostrils.
What's wrong?
Elena still looks annoyed. She leans in the doorframe, miraculously balancing on her 4-inch heels. Pamela Kelly's husband dragged her body to your hospital a little over an hour ago, she explains. She's dead. He looks like walking death, tried to protect his wife. A curse slips over Sebastian's lips.
Archer got to her. Where were they when he attacked her?
Getting off the L at Lincoln Square, she continues. He said Archer didn't look like death, so he must be fully formed again, or whatever this is. I shake my head. I don't understand how this necromancing thing works. Archer would have been leathery skin and liquefied organs, and bones, and now he's just walking around the city looking like any other human psycho? Apparently, Elena says, with an arched eyebrow. He needs some care, though, and not from a human doctor. Sebastian nods.
It's fine, I'll come in.
Want me to come with? I ask, as he turns and heads back to my bedroom to get the rest of his clothes.
That's okay,
I hear him call.
You need a day off. I'll call you when I'm done.
You two seem to be getting real comfortable, Elena observes, letting her eyes trail down me. Mind your own business, I snap at her, but she knows I have no real bite in it. She grins just like I expected. Sebastian steps out of my bedroom, snatches his things from the counter, and aims for the door. He presses a quick kiss to my cheek.
Dinner tonight?
He asks. Sure, I answer, hating that he has to leave. Elena gives me one last look before she follows after Sebastian. And, alone in my apartment once more, I close the door. Here is where the evidence is seen. I'm not a night council member, and I'm pretty damn glad for that fact. I'll leave the messy cleanups to the experienced vampires. But I still can't help but wonder how this is possible. I do not understand gifts, where they come from, how they're all so different. But from my experience, this necromancer is the most powerful, second only to Archer, and I even question that one. Apparently, all this necromancer needs to bring someone back is bones. Click, click, click. Something begins spinning in my brain. A question starts rolling through my mind, whirring fast and uncertain. I go to my laptop sitting on the desk against one wall. I open it and I start searching. What happens to the body of a Jane Doe? I skim several articles. In this day and age, patience isn't often required. With an internet connection, you can get the answer to just about any question within seconds or minutes. The answer I find is fairly straightforward. If the district can afford it, they'll bury the person. There will be a simple coffin and a priest will come out, but there will be no headstone. Or, if they choose the more economical route, the body will be cremated. My stomach drops. I sit back in my chair and absently look out over the lake. Archer King was a decayed corpse, and the necromancer still brought him back. My mother has been dead for 28 years. She wouldn't be much more than bones by this point. But what if she wasn't buried? Are ashes just as usable? My heart hammers with the possibility. What if? What if the woman I've never met, the woman who died only hours after I was born, could come back? What if I could get the chance to know her? What if she could get a second chance at life, because her first shot at it was far too short-lived? I'm not above taking a necromancer as hostage. I mean, even if his touch is death or something, since I'm alive, I'll just come back 20 minutes later. I'm a damn vampire. I'm strong, I'm fast, and I can't be killed. So it might be dangerous, but I'm pretty confident in my ability to take even him as a hostage. I get to my feet, retrieve my phone, and plug it in next to my computer to charge and reboot to life. Next, I do some searching. I never ended up farther than an hour from the place where me and my mother were found on the side of that highway. Thankfully, it's all within the same precinct. When you're always in the middle of nowhere, you cover a lot of ground. I look up the number, and just as my phone comes back alive, I dial it in. Hi, I'm trying to get some information on a Jane Doe that came in 28 years ago, I say when someone answers. The person hesitates for a moment, thrown at my odd request, but then transfers me to someone in records.
You the one looking for the Jane Doe?
A thick, bored-sounding voice answers. Yep, I answer. Might be a way back in the records. It was 28 years ago that she was brought in.
You realize they're called Jane Doe for a reason, right?
He asks rudely. I thought that might be why, I say in a tone. Look, I already know her name, not that it matters to you guys anyway. What I need to know is what was done with her remains. There's a pause again. For some reason, when you talk about graves and bodies, people get a little squeamish.
It's going to take me a while to find this. Do you happen to know the date she was brought in?
Sure do. It's the same day as my birthday. I rattle it off. In the background, I hear the scratching sound of a pencil on paper.
And your name and number, miss? I'm gonna have to call you back when I find this info. Might take me a few days.
Once more, I give him what he needs. He mumbles.
I'll call you when I find it.
And he hangs up on me. I sit back in my chair and stare at my phone. What if? The possibility of it all sends tingles down my spine. My father is alive. Someday we might find him. But what if I could also get my mother back from the dead? What if? Chapter 14. 4 long days pass with no new information on the collector or Marcus. I am getting more anxious by the moment. Now that I have my own personal reasons for wanting to find the necromancer, I'm a lot more motivated to take action. When I should be resting and enjoying my time off work, I go out into the city. I wander the streets of Chicago, scanning faces in the crowd. We have managed to pull dozens of images of both Marcus and Archer. I've studied the pictures, and I'm confident I have both of their faces memorized. I make up excuses when I go out into the city to look for them. I'm running errands, quick trip to the bank or the grocery store. People have places they need to go, places they need to be, so no one bats an eye at my need to go out. I don my sunglasses and I disappear into the crowds. When you're trying to look for just 2 people, you start to realize just how many people live in the city. There are nearly 3 million people in Chicago. I don't love those odds. Less than 1 in a million? Not so great. On the first snowy Sunday of the year, someone calls in a body, found on the stairs of the Nocturne, the building owned by the Night Council. The police get involved. They have no choice considering it was called in. But the Night Council has connections here in the city. It's a necessity. Sigrid identifies the woman as one of her charges. She was a gifted. And now she is dead. Her appearance on the steps of the building is a blatant message. The collector is active, and he's living up to his name. Sebastian and I take her body to the morgue at the hospital. We zip her into a bag and roll her into the fridge. It's really hard not to imagine this woman is my mother. Archer killed her the same way. He took her gift and then left her body on the side of the highway. Revenge burns in my blood. "You okay?" Sebastian asks. I look over my shoulder at him and find he's studying me with furrowed brows. "Fine," I say through nearly gritted teeth. And to make myself feel better about my mother's murderer running around the city, better for lying to Sebastian, I push him against a wall and take his mouth. Those hands are magic. Those lips work spells. I don't want to be in my head right now, and Sebastian is the perfect way to forget it all. Just as I shut off the water in the shower, I hear my phone buzzing on the counter. Stepping out, I grab a towel and wrap it around me, which is a very good thing because when I grab my phone, it's a FaceTime call from Roman. "Why?" is all I ask when I answer his call, his face appearing on the screen. I glower when I see his surprised expression and his brows raise up into his hair. "Oh, shit, I didn't mean to hit the video," he blurts, and then his brows furrow into a scowl. "I don't need to witness your after-dark activities with Sebastian, Juliet." "Screw you," I snarl. "Sebastian isn't here, he's at the hospital. I was having a nice, relaxing evening at home with a shower hot enough to burn my skin off. You're the one who went and ruined my night." I swear that Roman blushes just a bit, and he glances away from the screen for a moment. "I don't need details," he says in a low, slightly rough voice. "But I do need you tonight." The words catch me off guard, and my own brows shoot up and my eyes widen just a bit. "We got word of Archer's location." Roman moves on and proves, thankfully, that he didn't mean what he just said in the way it sounded. "I'm sending in a team in 20 minutes. I was hoping you might be willing to help." "Of course," I say, as my heart instantly jumps into my throat. I lay the phone on the counter and dash into the attached closet, scrounging for clothes. "Where should I meet you?" "I'll text you the address," he says. "But this is the building you're looking for." With my pants tugged on and a bra in place, I take the phone again. For a second, I consider modesty, but Roman has seen me exactly like this before. On the screen, I see a building that looks like any other skyscraper in Chicago. It's old. "Meet us there." "Got it," I say, and Roman ends the call. I scrape my hair back into a messy bun at the top of my head. I don a black leather jacket, some heavy boots, and head out the door. Just as I step out into the hall, my phone vibrates with the location Roman just sent me. It's a 20-minute walk from here. Good thing it's dark, and a Tuesday night. The weather is also terrible. I don't have to worry too much about being seen if I move a little faster than your average human. Anyone else wouldn't even notice them. They're all dressed in black. They're all playing casual. One is sitting in a car pretending to scroll on his phone. Another couple is pretending to make out against a wall, but their lips never actually touch, and neither is looking at the other. A man wanders up and down an alleyway like a strung-out homeless person. But Roman stands across the street from that door, staring at it. He wears all black, and a black cap is pulled down low over his eyes. With his hands stuffed into the pockets of his jacket, he looks very broody. "How many bodies do you have here?" I ask. And I realize for the first time that I'm seeing this team of Romans. Up until this point, I've only ever seen him work alone. But I'd once been told that Roman is the second largest employer of supernaturals in Chicago.
9.
He answers as he continues staring at the side door.
10, including you.
I nod. Who else is in there?
Marcus, Archer, obviously.
Roman rattles off. He looks down the street, watching as 2 more of his security detail arrive.
3 others.
Gifted? I question. Roman shakes his head.
I can't be sure, but I don't think so.
How do you finally find him? I ask.
Apparently, necromancers have a weakness for coffee,
Roman says as he arches an eyebrow.
His face was caught going to the same shop 3 days in a row. We were able to pull footage from other businesses in the area. We figured out what route he was taking to get to the shop, and from there, we found this camera,
he says as he points up and behind him. There, under the alcove, I find a security camera.
He's been going in and out of that door.
So it seems you do actually know how to do your job, I say, defaulting back to sarcasm and jabs. Roman just casts a dark glare in my direction. Sorry, I automatically apologize. So what's the plan?
Storm the place,
Roman says as he watches his 10th person walk up, speaking to the couple who isn't really trying to pretend to make out anymore.
Detain them. We have a nerve agent that will knock anyone out who breathes it in.
Good thing vampires don't need to breathe that often, I say.
Exactly,
Roman says.
But we have to evaluate the situation, see how big the space is, how many people are in there. We need to evaluate how much to use, or we might kill anyone on the same floor.
This sounds messy, I note.
It's always messy in Chicago,
Roman says darkly as he steps forward, heading to his crew. Through the rain and the wickedly cold wind, I follow Roman.
Stay alert. Have your nerve agents ready,
Roman says. He never raises his voice to be heard over the wind, but I know every one of them can hear him perfectly. Every single person who's here ready to storm the building is a vampire. There are 9 quick nods, and then Roman doesn't hesitate as he walks right up the steps to that side door. We enter into a narrow and dark stairway. Instantly, I can hear music pumping through the walls, which is fortunate. We're 10 vampires who are light on our feet, but we're going to need every element of surprise we can get tonight. We climb higher up the stairway. The sounds coming through the thin walls change, fading from the music to what sounds like a couple fighting, to the sound of a blender running on high. And then, for a long stretch, there is nothing but silence. Higher we climb. And then I feel a change in the air pressure. The group as a whole moves slower, and I know the area ahead is about to open up. I listen hard. I hear the sound of 2 men talking, though it's low, and their words are muffled behind all the people in front of me. We step out onto a high balcony, and the moment I look down, I realize what this place is. It's a theater. There are a few hundred seats below us, and directly down, there is a stage. We walk out onto a high catwalk, where all the lights and ropes are. Roman doesn't have to give instructions. He simply walks silently across the narrow walkway, his team following after him. My heart is hammering. Alarm bells are starting to go off. You might be the only one who can get to him. Roman had said those words to me before. Are you willing to die for the people of Chicago? It's why I'm here, because when it comes down to it, I might be the only one who can take Archer King out, because I'll just keep coming back. But Roman is here too. So is his team. They're here, and that means they're willing to die for Chicago as well. Stupid. This is a stupid plan. I don't have a better one, but there had to be a better option than walking into the gift sucker's lair. I cast my eyes down, and there I find 5 people. I immediately recognize Marcus. There are 2 other men, lounging in old armchairs that have been hauled onto the stage. They both look like they're in their upper 40s. There's a folding table set up, and dozens of books cover its surface. There's a woman standing there, rifling through pages of an ancient-looking tomb. And standing across the table from her is Archer King. My stomach knots as I take him in. I know logically that he must be pushing 50, if not over. But he looks younger than that. He wears a slick and shiny black leather coat. His feet are adorned with heavy boots. And when I look at the face of my mother's killer, he looks like any other man. This man was buried in the ground just a week ago, a rotten corpse. But standing in front of us is a man of flesh and blood. His hair is to his shoulders. It hangs slightly greasy and wild. It's that color that's neither blonde nor brown. His brows hood intense eyes. His jaw is covered by a beard that matches his hair color. He might be handsome if he were more well-kept. But like this, he looks almost as if he'd blend right in with the homeless crowd coming to brave the storm outside. A lance of pain suddenly jolts through my stomach. I wince. Now is not the time to get taken down by nerves. I blink twice, shake my head, and brush it off. Stay focused, Juliet. How many people get the opportunity to face down their mother's killer? I shift to Roman's side, waiting for the order. How is this going to go? Maybe I should have gotten more details. Do we rip their heads off, their hearts out? Once they're knocked out, do we kill them, or are we taking prisoners? Are we really going to wait for them to be knocked out before we make a move? Suddenly, I realize that I am wildly out of place here. I'm just reckless enough to come along on this mission without asking questions. But I'm a freaking doctor, not a soldier. Roman does know what the hell he's doing, so do his people here. Suddenly, I think that maybe I'm a liability. Another shot of pain streaks from my stomach up to my chest. It's all I can do to keep from grasping at my chest and yelling out in pain. Keep it together, Juliet. I hiss at myself internally. You need to end this, now, for your mother. I force myself not to think about the rising pain in my stomach and focus on what's happening down below. They're all talking. They mention names, places. They're discussing the gifted they've scouted out and who they're going to go after next. But as I look at Archer, a drop of fear sinks in my stomach. It looks like his lips are moving, just slightly, as if he should be muttering words, but I hear nothing. Another jolt of pain rips up to my core, to the back of my brain. One of the soldiers, just down the walkway from me, lets out a grunt, as if he feels the pain too. As I look at him, I see a drip of blood fall from his nose. In a panic, I look back down at Archer, and with dread dropping in my stomach, I watch as his eyes rise up, and a smile pulls at the corners of his mouth. And I know what's happening. Another of Roman's team members lets out a grunt of pain, and blood drips from his nose. Now, Roman bellows, even as the word comes out broken when he winces in pain. But I know. Roman has underestimated Archer King. A little gas isn't going to take them down. This is a man who ran rampant throughout the country for decades. We started meeting our defeat the second we stepped inside the building. Roman, I try to call out, but the words come up with a gasp of blood. It spills over my lips, and I can already feel myself suffocating on it. You have to get out. But I can't get any more words out. I cough. I gasp. But more blood comes out. I hear the others behind me gasping too. And I watch as a drip of blood falls from Roman's nose. So I don't stop. I don't hesitate. I rush at Roman. His eyes widen for just a second when he sees me rushing him, but I don't slow. My hands connect with his chest, and I shove him back with all the force I can muster. I throw him through the glass window behind him. Outside, down at least 10 stories, but outside of this building, hopefully away from the damage Archer is weaving. I turn, my vision going blurry. There's gas filling the space, and my lungs burn from it. In a panic, I take in one breath to hold, but my head spins faster at that. I watch as one man throws himself over the balcony, fangs bared, his eyes blood red. Archer waves a hand, and the man seems to lock up, unable to move. He hits the surface of the wood stage like he's a statue. I look around, searching for a weapon, anything to help, but my head is swimming. One by one, Roman soldiers are spewing blood. It runs out of their mouths as they gasp in pain. I watch it leak from that woman's eyes now. It drains out of another man's ears. We're dying. They're dying. He hasn't staked them. He hasn't beheaded them. But they're dying, and no part of me doubts it.
I told you we should have moved yesterday,
I hear Archer say, and his voice sends a chill down my spine. He killed my mother. I watched him do it. Malcolm's vision was both a blessing and a curse. Because of it, I know this man's face. I saw what he did.
You all bested me once,
Archer says, his voice dark, dangerous.
It won't happen again. This will be a new Chicago.
One man collapses to the walkway, and I hear him take a gasping breath. There's so much blood. It makes the ground beneath my feet slick. As I reach a hand up, I wipe at my nose, and my hand comes away coated in blood. A woman stumbles, smacking her head on the railing, and once she hits the ground, she doesn't move again. I can't let us be bested like this. We're dying. They're all about to die, and I'm about to go with them. How confident am I actually that I'll wake up again? Doesn't matter now. It's too late. So I grab one of the massive lights beside me. It's huge. It must weigh 300 pounds. With every ounce of strength I have left, I heave that light over the railing, and it crushes right on top of the two men sitting in the chairs. With a feral yell that fills every inch of this theater, Archer turns to me, his eyes instantly finding mine. And, with another bellow, he raises his hands. Everything in me explodes, and I watch as the last of Roman's soldiers collapse. Chapter 15.
Come on, Juliet.
The sound is very far away, very hollow. The rush builds up inside of me. My soul, my body, my core being surges faster, faster, faster. The world shakes. It's a never-ending earthquake, and it's going to shake me right apart until I have no limbs, no head, just a stump of a trunk.
Wake up, Juliet.
And with one last adrenaline rush that erupts me into the real world, a gasp rips from my chest, and my eyes open.
Shit, finally,
Roman breathes as he looks heavenward, as if in a prayer of gratitude. Blood drips from his nose, and there's a huge gash on his forehead.
I started thinking you weren't going to wake up this time.
What? I begin asking, but my stomach rolls and angry lightning bolts of pain shoot through my abdomen. Whoa, I don't feel so good. And then I feel it all surge up in me. I twist to the side, and I vomit blood. So much blood. Roman curses.
Come on, we have to get you to Sebastian.
Suddenly, I feel Roman's arms scoop under my shoulder blades in the back of my knees. The world spins even more, and a lance of pain rips through my stomach. A cry of pain escapes my lips before I give it permission. Roman curses again. He's full of all kinds of bad words right now.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
With a gasp, I search for air. My eyes slide open again, and for the first time, I realize where we are. We're still in the theater. Somehow, I ended up on the stage. There are the men I crushed. They're dead, and parts of their bodies are no longer attached. But there, to the left, I see another body. There, on the far side of the stage, I see one more. And blood. I see so much blood. Roman, I whisper, are they?
They're dead,
he confirms as he crosses the stage, stepping over a body. One of his guys.
All of them.
Where's Archer? I suddenly gape, trying to wriggle out of Roman's arms so I can be on my feet when he attacks again. But a shot of pain rips from my navel to my brain. I feel blood rush from my nose, and when I reach up to wipe at it, I find my hands are already covered in blood.
He's gone,
Roman says, as he tightens his grip on me so I can't get away. He descends the stairs, and chills prickle my arms.
He and Marcus and that woman split. When I came back inside the building after you threw me out of that window, they were gone.
It's my turn to breathe a curse. What the hell did he do to us? I feel like my insides have been liquefied. This is different from last time. I didn't wake up with a stake wound last time.
Archer used a gift against you,
Roman says, as he pushes a door open and steps out into the frigid night.
He knew what he was doing.
Suddenly, his grip on me tightens just slightly, and I look up to meet his eyes.
You saved my life, Juliet,
he says quietly.
You might have cracked my damn head open, and definitely broke half a dozen bones, but you saved my life.
Again, I point out. I've always had a hard time breaking bad habits. And it's not just the pain that ignites in me when Roman crooks just a little bit of a smile, but the pain wins out. It rips through my liver, my kidneys, my stomach rolls again, and with a surge, another wave of blood erupts from my mouth. I turn my head barely in time not to get it all over me and Roman.
Shit.
Roman breathes again, and the world is a complete blur of speed and pain. And then suddenly, I'm staring up at the familiar, blinding fluorescent lights overhead.
Sebastian!
Roman bellows. My eyes flutter open, but the light is so bright, I can't focus them.
Sebastian!
There's a clattering sound, and then I hear a panicked gasp.
Juliet!
I've never heard a word spoken with such fear and panic.
What the hell happened?
I hear Sebastian bellow, and then I'm jostled as I'm transferred from Roman's arms to Sebastian's, and the world erupts into an entirely new level of pain. I can't help the scream that rips from my lips.
Archer,
Roman spews.
We got word of his location, and she and I went in with a team. Why the hell would you drag her with you?
Sebastian snarls as I'm laid out on a bed. I can make out his blurry face, and I've never seen it hold so much anger. I mutter, trying to get a grasp on words as everything swirls into a hurricane of blood and pain. I wanted to go.
I don't know what he did,
Roman continues explaining as Sebastian sets to my examination.
He just liquefied everyone from the inside out. Juliet.
He hesitates for a moment, and as my head lolls to the side, I catch sight of his face with clarity, just for a moment. He's conflicted, but I see resolve quickly settle into his eyes.
Juliet is the only one that survived. But I see you walking around still,
Sebastian barks as I feel a prick in my arm, and then a rush of hot liquid pouring through my veins.
She threw me out a damn window the second she realized what was happening.
Roman snaps back.
She saved your broody ass?
Sebastian quips. He presses lightly on my stomach, and another cry of agony rips from me. The edges of the room start getting darker.
I never asked her to,
Roman growls.
Have you never met Juliet?
The words start sounding fuzzy and far away.
Of course she walked into fire. You better hope she pulls through this, you bastard, or I will cut every one of your organs out of your body and feed them to you.
I try to open my mouth to tell Sebastian to calm down. He doesn't have the whole story, and I know he'll do anything, even go way too far to save me. But my mouth and head are full of cotton, and I don't hear another word as the world dissolves. I'm the heaviest thing that has ever existed in the world. My arms each weigh as much as a 747. Each of my legs is the biggest tree in the redwood forest. And my head is definitely the weight of the entire freaking moon. I feel seared, like a rapid fire has burned through my entire body. Everything feels in place, but everything in me is ravaged. And it takes every ounce of strength I can muster to blink my eyes open. I find the familiar ceiling tiles of the hospital. Mercifully, the lights are turned off. I hear the beep of a heart monitor. I hear the compression of oxygen and realize there's a cannula in my nose pushing oxygen into my system.
Juliet.
I hear a whisper. As I turn my head to the side, Sebastian jolts to his feet. I didn't realize he was holding my hand, but suddenly there's more compression on it as he squeezes it. Sebastian, I say, my voice coming out as a hoarse croak. And he breaks. The moment I say his name, Sebastian's beautiful, always composed face crumples. His skin is splotchy and red. His lips draw thin, and his already reddened eyes well with tears. He crumples into me, gripping me so hard it's hard to breathe. With his face pressed to the side of my neck, I feel his hot tears fall from his face, rolling down my skin. And slowly, I find the use of my arms, raising them just enough to hold onto him.
I thought I was going to lose you.
He breathes as he trails his lips over the heat of my neck.
Shit, Juliet. Why?
I'm okay, Sebastian, I say roughly, as one of my hands raises to lace into his hair, cradling him against me. I think. He backs up just enough to look me in the eyes, one of his hands coming to the side of my face.
Archer King liquefied your insides with a few words. You should have melted from the inside out.
But I didn't, I say, trying to smile for him, so I can make that utter fear and panic ebb from his expression. And is that what happened? Because it sure felt like it.
This is serious, Juliet,
Sebastian says, his brows furrowing, and I know I've taken it too far when things are still this raw.
Archer just killed 8 of Roman's best people, and you miraculously walked away, only to nearly die in my arms. Juliet.
He gasps as tears continue to stain his cheeks, and he takes my hand in his, holding it against his chest so hard it hurts.
Do you know what would have happened to me if you died?
His words are completely desperate gasps. His entire body is trembling, and tears prick in my own eyes. Sebastian was married before, to a woman he loved. He had children, and in the end, they died a horrible death, burned alive, and he could do nothing to save them.
I would lose my mind if I were to lose you.
He breathes as he presses his forehead to mine.
I can't.
And he can't seem to find the words. I'm sorry, I mutter as I cup the side of his face, my lips only a breath from his. I'm sorry. I didn't know what we were walking into, but I had to do something. If I could help, I'm going to help.
Let Roman do his job,
Sebastian says, and his tone is completely desperate. His lower lip is trembling. His hands are shaking so hard, I grip the one he holds harder to try to calm him. He shakes his head.
I can't lose you, Juliet. I can't. Please.
He presses his forehead to mine again. Tears roll down my own face. Sebastian's pain is palpable. It's all-consuming. And I feel everything in me cracking. Every self-protective wall I've ever built, he is blowing bullet holes in them. Sebastian is completely falling apart because he thought he was going to lose me.
I swear I will protect you,
Sebastian says, as his eyes slide open and meet mine. I see determination there, strength, intense honesty.
I won't let anyone hurt you, ever again. I'll burn down the entire damn world if I have to.
My heart is racing. The breath catches in my throat, and my entire soul is on fire. Sebastian rubs his thumb over my bottom lip, staring into my eyes with so much conviction it's hard to breathe.
I love you, Juliet,
he confesses in a steady breath. The emotions rush inside of me, pushing those tears closer to the surface, forcing them down my cheeks. Now I'm the one who's trembling. No man has ever said those words to me and meant them in the way Sebastian does. And looking into his eyes, I know I've never felt like this for any other man. A tiny sob escapes my mouth as I pull his lips to mine, taking his soul as mine, giving him my own soul in return. I'm frantic, desperate. I've found him, the man who treasures me but isn't scared of my past. In part because of it, he loves me. I love you too, Sebastian, I say, feeling as if I'm going to be completely consumed by the words. I feel a smile form on his face, and he lets out just the slightest relieved breath. He cups his hand behind my neck, holding me so close. I can feel his fear, his relief, his desperation in every surface of his immortal being.
I can't have spent a century looking for you, only to lose you just as we're beginning,
He says. I hear excitement building in his tone.
Juliet,
He shakes his head.
I've spent so long hating the world and thinking I was never going to find happiness again. And now my heart doesn't even exist in my own chest anymore. You're holding it in your hands.
His eyes rise to mine. There's so much passion in them, so much fire.
I think I'm going to need you to hold on to it for the rest of my life.
Suddenly, my heart goes really still. I feel my expression slacken, and the world gets really, really quiet. But looking into Sebastian's eyes, it's easy, so damn easy to see down the line of the rest of our lives. And when I imagine the rest of my life, it's impossible to see it with anyone except him. You mean you're not going to get sick of my snarky mouth in a month? I ask, even as a smile starts pulling on my lips. You're not going to get tired of me questioning every person who tries to walk into our lives because I kind of believe that everyone is a monster deep down? A sly smile, the one I've grown to love so much, crosses Sebastian's lips. He shakes his head and leans in closer, kissing me softly, slowly.
I love this damn mouth,
He says softly.
and we're all monsters, Juliet. But we'll judge all the other monsters from afar, together.
How? How does he know the thoughts in my head? The anger and the hurt and the bitterness? How is this man an outer reflection of myself? And what if I'm vain? I ask. My words come out breathy and quiet because suddenly I'm overwhelmed by the future. It's so damn clear, and that's never happened before. I've never known what was coming, not really. What if I want it all? The party, all the guests, the dress, the flowers, the big trip after. What if I want the home and every single night after? Every damn one.
Then we'll be vain together,
Sebastian says, as a wry smile grows on his lips and he takes my own. My lips part, and his breath filling my lungs is exactly what I need, exactly what I've been searching for my entire life.
I swear it, Juliet. All of it.
I love this man. I love him for exactly who he is and how we can be brutally honest and ourselves together. And we're on the same page. This is no party we're talking about. It's a wedding. And the whole city will watch as I become Dr. Juliet Vincent.